Good afternoon, everyone. And welcome to a City Planning Commission review session. Today is Monday, April 21st, 2014, and a quorum is present. The first item on the agenda is a private application with respect to proposed zoning map and zoning text amendments, special permits, authorizations, city map amendment, and chair certification to facilitate a mixed-use development, including affordable housing, along the Astoria waterfront in Queens. I'd like to introduce Hae-Kyung Yang, our project manager from the Queens office, who's actually making her very first presentation today before the City Planning Commission.
Good afternoon. This is an application by 2030 Astoria Developers, LLC, to seek approvals of a series of land use actions to facilitate a mixed-use, predominantly residential development in Astoria, Queens. As a quick overview, I will present the project's context and background, proposed development, requested actions, briefly about the environmental review, and the conclusion. The project site is located in the Pot Cove section of the Hallett's Point Peninsula in Astoria, Queens, Community District 1. The Hallett's Point Peninsula juts into the East River with close proximity to Roosevelt Island, the Borough of Manhattan, and Randall's Island. Lined along the East River, the Hallett's Point Peninsula is surrounded by pockets of open space and parks. On the Queens waterfront, Rainey Park and Socrates Park can be seen on the southern end of the peninsula, Whitey Ford Field on the north, and the 65-acre Astoria Park further east. Unique to the project is the shoreline itself. Right at the waterfront, facing RFK and Hellgate Bridge, the project is generally bound by the East River to the north, 4th Street to the west, 27th Avenue to the south, and 9th Street to the east. Another unique characteristic of the site is the topography. The shape of the cove shelters the site from natural elements such as high tide and flooding. A large portion of the site, even by the waterfront, is above the 100-year floodplain, and the grade change of 39 feet between 27th Avenue here and the waterfront further protects the site from potential sea rise. Though the site is unique, it is isolated from the rest of Astoria neighborhood. West and between 26th and 27th Avenue, here, are warehouses and light industrial buildings and some 1-2 family detached houses. It is between these two avenues the slope has the greatest grade change. South of 27th Avenue is a 27-acre Astoria Houses campus. The Astoria neighborhood east of the project, here, is generally developed as a residential community with a broad mix of housing types. The project area itself consists primarily of light industrial buildings and warehouses, reflective of the use of waterfront properties once central to commerce. Today, the waterfront is not used as a source of transport for these businesses. The street system further isolates the site. 4th Street dead ends at 26th, right here, 26th Avenue, limiting access to the waterfront. At the dead end of 4th Street, the street curves into 26th Avenue, and you're surrounded by low-rise warehouses and industrial buildings. Adjacent and neighbored to the site, you can see the 23-story Shore Tower residential development. 26th Avenue runs east and west and dead ends in the middle of the project site. The dead end of 26th Street is physically gated, and you're surrounded by concrete parking lot and vacant land. You're looking west towards Manhattan. To the left, you can see the 15-story Goodwill Terrace apartment building located at the southern end of the project site. Though mapped, 8th Street is unbuilt from 27th Avenue to the waterfront and dead ends at 27th Avenue. At the edge of 8th Street and 27th Avenue, the highest part of the site, you can see how the topography shapes the view of the water. RFK Bridge can be seen further out here. Because the street system is so important to reconnecting the neighborhood to the waterfront, the project proposes to extend 4th Street, 26th Street, 4th Street, 26th Street, and 8th Street, as I will explain further in the presentation. Reiterating the need to reconnect the existing neighborhood, the recently approved Hallett's Point development proposed to extend 27th Avenue as a pedestrian walkway to the waterfront, here, and to reconnect 1st Street and Astoria Boulevard through the Astoria Houses campus, superblock. Here we go. To get to the site, public bus transportation is provided by MTA's Q18, Q102, Q103. The closest subway is the NQ, located about 9/10 of a mile from the site on 30th Avenue and 31st Street, which is a little bit outside of the PowerPoint here. The 9.7-acre Hallett's Point development was approved in October 2013. The development proposed 11 buildings ranging in height from 11 to 31 stories that contain commercial space, including a fresh supermarket and residential units. The project would produce approximately 2,400 units and 483 permanent affordable housing units using the Inclusionary Housing Bonus Program. 5 of 11 buildings will be constructed on the Astoria Houses campus. Open green space is proposed to line the waterfront along the development from Hallett's Cove to Whitey Ford Field. The Hallett's Point development is an initial catalyst, and the Astoria Cove project builds on reactivating and transforming this isolated part of the peninsula. The current site is largely not zoned for residential use. The project area north of 26th Avenue is zoned M1-1, shown in this light purple. Lots along the waterfront on this M1-1 section contains warehousing and light manufacturing buildings. South of 26th Avenue has some mix of uses, such as light manufacturing, multifamily housing, and vacant lots, but it's mainly zoned R6, shown in the light yellow. M1-1 allows light industrial uses as well as office, hotel, and retail uses. No residential is allowed. The max permitted FAR is 1.0. If community facilities are allowed, the max FAR can be 2.4. Heights are regulated by sky exposure plane, which begins 30 feet above the street line. R6 zone allows for medium-density residential development. The max FAR is 2.43 for residential uses and 4.8 for community facility. Bulk regulations are based on either height factor or quality housing regulations. Buildings that use the height factor are located center of the lot, surrounded by open space, and on-site parking, like the Goodwill Terrace apartments located adjacent to this project. Quality housing regulations have higher lot coverage and are set at or near the street line. The FAR using this regulation ranges from 2.2 to 3.0 based on the street breadth. The land uses surrounding the area primarily consists of light industrial, warehousing, and vacant land. There are some 1-2-family homes, multifamily housing, mixed-use development, and institutional uses, all ranging in the height of 1 to 3 stories. In 2010, the Astoria neighborhood just east of the project area was rezoned to encourage mixed-use, moderate density development along the wider and commercial corridor and at transit hubs, such as Vernon and Astoria Boulevard. Vernon's here, and Astoria Boulevard's here, and 21st Street. In addition, the Inclusionary Housing Program was applied to Vernon Boulevard and 21st Street to provide incentives for the construction and preservation of affordable housing units. So now we're orienting the site. North is to your right. The Astoria Cove large-scale plan seeks to transform the currently isolated section of Astoria waterfront and connect it with the existing surrounding neighborhood by reconnecting 26th Avenue between 4th and 9th Street and creating pedestrian mews from 27th Avenue to the waterfront. These street system changes, in conjunction with the newly proposed 4th Street along the waterfront, and the private street along the crescent here, reinforces a street system that emphasizes walkability around the waterfront and buildings. The new development will include market rate and affordable housing, new ground floor retails, a site for elementary school, and over 83,000 square feet of open space and new waterfront public access area. The proposed large-scale development is designed to facilitate public access to the waterfront and to connect the street system to the water. The landscape designs of the Astoria Cove project works to meet the goals of reconnecting the city to the water, creating continuity of the Queens East River and North Shore Greenway. The project would open up pedestrian and visual corridors along 4th Street, 8th Street, and 26th Avenue. 4th Street, 8th Street, and 26th Avenue. The streets are designed to draw the public to the waterfront, allowing people that are walking, driving, or cycling several options to get down to the site. The 55,621 square feet of waterfront public access area has been designed by Ken Smith Workshop, the architect behind the East River Esplanade. The waterfront esplanade is conceived as a large crescent, emphasizing views and reflects the natural form of the pot cove. Its programmatic elements include a bi-level esplanade, a get-down area, several overlooks, extensive planting, and a child's play area. The bi-level esplanade focuses on pedestrian movement, accessibility, views, and social interactions. It is designed to follow the curvature of the existing waterfront and riprap. Trees are planted to line the esplanade and provide a formal structure to the landscape. Pockets of seating areas and pathways are placed between the two levels and under the trees. The planting palette would consist of native maritime grassland and shrubland species. Above is an excerpt of the waterfront plan, showing an example of an outdoor cafe, sidewalk, vehicular path, and bi-level esplanade. In the section, you can see the bi-level esplanade parallel but slightly different in level. Transform the current concrete lot into the newly created private street. Crescent Drive will allow vehicular and pedestrian movement adjacent to the esplanade as an easy transition between the commercial edges lining Crescent Drive, which, as the section in this perspective shows, would include cafes, seating, and retail, and the upper level of the esplanade. The street would operate as a narrow 22 feet one-way eastbound roadway where materials, visual, and textural changes in paving, as well as bollards, would distinguish it from the pedestrian areas. At the terminus of 4th Street extension is a series of seated steps called the Get Down that will provide a seating overlook to unobstructed views of RFK, the Hellgate Bridge, and Randall's Island. Further west, at the end of the esplanade, would be a child's play area, programmed with play equipment, water spray, seating area, and planting. Beyond the esplanade, the 8th Street Mews maximizes the unique waterfront location. 8th Street will be demapped, but will be improved and maintained as a pedestrian walkway. Following the natural slope from 27th Avenue to the waterfront, the Mews is a pedestrian walkway connection that is bisected by 26th Avenue. In this section, 27th Avenue would be here, and 26th Avenue is here. This passageway would consist of unit pavers, series of steps, and planters that mitigate the steep topography and serve as access points to the proposed terraced townhouses. The planters incorporate seating elements and are designed as rain gardens to capture stormwater. To maximize access to the waterfront, the development proposes to improve the currently underdeveloped and inaccessible segment of 26th Avenue and to create a new diagonal extension of 4th Street from 26th Avenue to the waterfront esplanade. This is a section at the commercial street of 26th Avenue. It is envisioned to be lined with sweet gum trees, pigmented sidewalk paving, bike racks, and streetlights. The currently underdeveloped street would be improved and extended to meet 9th Street. This perspective is along 26th Avenue, showing the supermarket occupying the ground floor of one of the buildings, and the school can be seen further along 26th Avenue. Here. The new 4th Street will connect the development site with the existing upland residential neighborhood. At the 4th Street corridor, tulip trees along both sides of the street were specifically selected to create a visual framing device for the terminus at the waterfront. Currently, 4th Street dead ends, and buildings prohibit access to the water. The new 4th Street extension would allow both pedestrian and vehicular access to the waterfront. In total, the proposed development involves the construction of 5 buildings. 3 of the 5 buildings will be located on the waterfront area and will range in height from 26 to 32 stories, totaling approximately 1.5 million square feet. The buildings are composed of several tower elements massed to frame the connecting grid on the site and to provide improvement of the street circulation system. The tall towers at the waterfront gradually decrease in height, working with the natural slope of the site as they move upland. In addition, the buildings are oriented to increase the public's visual and physical access to the waterfront and public access open space. As you enter the development, retail spaces are lined along 4th Street with pockets of entrances for the residential developments above. The waterfront edge is proposed to be lined with cafes, restaurants, and other commercial uses. Along the pedestrian 8th Street Mews, uses would be primarily residential and would have commercial uses at the corner of 26th Avenue. Along 26th Avenue, the ground floor of Building 2 is designated for a supermarket, and the site for an elementary school is located at the corner of 26th and 9th. Parking for the residents and commercial uses are programmed within, above, and below grade for the waterfront parcel buildings and below grade for upland buildings. Shuttle service to the 30th Avenue NQ subway station would be provided. It is estimated that 3 shuttles would run 4 times an hour. The developer is proposing to designate the waterfront portion of the site for the inclusionary housing program in conjunction with the request to rezone this portion of the site from M11 to R73. This means that the redevelopment of the R73 would be allowed to have a base FAR of 3.75 that may be increased to 5.0 with the provisions of affordable housing. Under this inclusionary housing program, 20% of the floor area generated on this R73 waterfront site will be set aside for permanent affordable housing. The total floor area at the waterfront is about 1.5 million square feet. 20% of the total floor area is 293,120 square feet, producing approximately 295 units. The remaining 1,256 dwelling units on the waterfront would be market rate. There are 2 buildings planned on the upland zoning lot, south of 26th Avenue, and total approximately 196,000 square feet. Building 4, a commercial residential building, would measure 8 stories. Building 5 would be a 6-story residential building. Together, Buildings 4 and 5 would produce 223 market rate dwelling units. Adjacent to Building 5, in the light purple, is a site for the 60,567 square feet of the pre-K to 5 elementary public school. The applicant has designated the site for SCA, and both parties have agreed on construction and timing. The project is planned to be completed in 2023 and constructed in 4 phases. The upland portion would be completed in Phase 1 as market rate units. The 3 other phases on the waterfront would have market rate and affordable rate units. Phase would start at the eastern part of the site, south on this PowerPoint here, and move westward. Each phase of the waterfront would provide a portion of waterfront public access. The school will be part of Phase 4. The project would require approval of discretionary actions by the CPC, including zoning map amendment to rezone the manufacturing district to residential districts, zoning text amendment to include the project area as part of the inclusionary housing program, general large-scale permit to permit development according to site plans, waterfront special permit, waterfront authorizations and certifications to modify certain design requirements that support the waterfront public access and visual corridors, and lastly, a city map amendment that would allow for the closing of 8th Street between 27th Avenue and the waterfront, and establishing 4th Street between 26th Avenue and the waterfront. The proposed development requires an amendment to the zoning map to rezone the portion of the project area located in the M1-1 district to R73 with a C2-4 overlay, R6 district to a R7A with a C2-4 overlay, and R6 to R6B. As mentioned earlier, the R73 portion of the site is proposed to be designated with inclusionary housing program, where 20% of the floor area generated on this portion of the site will be set aside for permanent affordable housing. Zoning text amendment is required to include the R73 portion of the site of the project area as part of the inclusionary housing program. This portion would join Hallett's Point development, areas along Vernon Boulevard and 21st Street to be eligible for the inclusionary housing program in Community District 1 of Astoria. A general large-scale special permit is requested to facilitate the development indicated in the site plan. One of the requests is to transfer floor area from the upland lot to the waterfront lot in order to achieve the transition of lower buildings into the upland context. Other requests include reducing minimum distance between buildings, waiving courtyard requirements, and extending the vesting terms of a special permit from 4 to 10 years. The applicant requests a waterfront special permit, which would facilitate modification to the building envelope in connection with height and setback. Specific examples of the requested special permit include increasing allowable building heights of 185 feet to range from 222 to 320 feet for 4 of the tower elements shown in pink. Decreasing initial setback distance from the required range of 15 to 30 feet to 10 feet, and increasing base height of 65 feet to 82 to 102 feet. Other modifications requested include increasing tower size, width of wall facing the shoreline, floor area coverage, tower footprint size, and allowing building encroachment at rear yards. Waterfront authorizations actions are needed to modify certain design requirements to support the phased development and design of the waterfront improvements, such as placement of bike racks along 4th and 9th Street. And a chairperson certification is requested for compliance with all the requirements for the waterfront public access area and visual corridors. Lastly, a city map amendment is requested to establish 4th Street between 26th Avenue to the edge of the proposed waterfront. Yeah. And to eliminate the unbuilt section of 8th Street from 27th Avenue to the water to facilitate the pedestrian mews. The 8th Street mews and the private street, Crescent Drive, would be public access easement area, as written in the restrictive deck. Because it is such a large and complicated project, the potential for significant adverse impacts has been carefully analyzed in a draft EIS. The potential for impacts have been identified in the following 7 categories. Mitigation strategies are being verified for each impact in order to prepare for the final EIS. In conclusion, this private application proposes to create opportunities for new housing development, including affordable housing on underutilized and vacant land, where there is no longer a concentration of industrial activity and where strong demand for housing exists. The proposed development would help facilitate transformation of a currently isolated section of Astoria into a public, accessible area that emphasizes reconnecting with the existing Astoria neighborhood and connecting green space along the East River. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a daunting first presentation to the Commission. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Questions? Mrs. Dela-Uz.
Hi, thank you, and welcome. I have a couple different questions. One is, and maybe you don't know all the answers, and I'm sure we'll learn them through the process. But the questions I have to do with whether or not it was considered to apply inclusionary housing to the entire project versus just the waterfront sites. And in general, based on the phasing of the project, it appears as though the public benefits pieces, the school, the open space, the affordable housing, all come in later phases, whereas obviously the discretionary actions to come immediately. So that's just a statement that concerns me. And then just maybe you mentioned it and I missed it, and on a smaller point, is there a bike path at all involved? And, when you showed the green, that particular slide, obviously, it's quite impressive path along the entire waterfront. It seems like there's a great opportunity there. So, comments and questions. Thanks.
Okay. So this is a private application. The developers recognize that the portion of the site is being rezoned manufacturing to residential, and that it should be rezoned with incentives for affordable housing. This is consistent with what was done with Hallett's Point development. But I understand your question, and this issue will be further examined in the public review process. The second question about the phasing?
I think it was more a comment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to answer.
Oh, okay. So phase 1 is considered a modest phase. They would like to begin to see how the market is doing, and I believe buildings 4 and 5 would be rental and co-op. And this is the phase of the project at a scale where they can really begin to understand the more large, intense part of the development. So I think.
To that point, I mean, the benefit of affordable housing is that it helps mitigate risk if part of the concern is whether or not there's a market. There's always a strong market for affordable housing. So if that's truly part of the concern, then I would say from a development perspective, it's actually helpful to have it in the first phase because it mitigates that concern to some extent.
I would just underscore the basic point that Ms. Dela-Uz was making, which is that, as we all know, this is a certification that the application is complete, and there are still many questions to be determined, many issues to be decided. This is the beginning of the review process, to be sure. So issues of affordable housing particularly, and phasing, and the like, I am confident are issues that all of us will be addressing as the process continues and as the community and also reflects on this application. Mr. Reade.
Good afternoon. Understanding the large-scale general development plan and the intent to or desire to shift some of the FAR from the upland portions to the waterfront sites. The 68,000 square feet that they're looking to transfer, would those be subject to the inclusionary housing, or would those not be?
No, it would not.
It would not. Okay, so basically it's the 20% of the
Waterfront.
current waterfront site plus the 68,000.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Cirillo.
Thank you for that presentation. I just have a question that I see in the description of the different elements of the development. There's 900 spaces of parking. Do you know where in the project they fall? Is it all in one place? Are they distributed amongst the development? And at what point in the phasing does parking become a reality?
Parking is distributed throughout buildings on all the waterfront lots and also in the upland part of Building 4. Parking would be within, above, and below ground for the waterfront lots, coming in at the phases that the buildings will be built. And I believe the upland lot would have parking below grade only.
And do we know if the type of parking will be accessory or will it be public parking? Will there be a combination? And I'm assuming there'll be a private operator if it's public parking?
I believe the application is for, it states accessory parking.
Accessory parking? Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Levin.
Yes, I noticed that the project has gotten slightly smaller from the scoping document that we received about a year ago. And the notable areas of change are obviously with the inclusionary housing program, because at scoping it was intended that it would apply to the entire site, including the upland portions that Commissioner Deleuze was asking about. So I hope when we come back to this for the public hearing, we can understand how those changes were made and why it makes sense. And the other one that raised a question in my mind was about the reduction in the amount of open space being provided. I think we really need to be sure that this is fantastic open space. It's a little bit challenged because it's isolated between two parcels that haven't really planned for open space. You've got the shore towers, which is a waterfront use. It would be great. I would like to understand more about the connection between this piece of open space to shore towers. It would be fantastic if there were a way to get all the way to Astoria Park, maybe not, but we should really press hard on that issue. And similarly to the other side, you've got two industrial portions, one of them vacant. I mean, why couldn't we find a creative solution for that to get to Whitey Ford Park? Because once you get that far, you've really completed the whole Howitts Point loop. So that's not so much a question for you, but an issue that I hope we can explore. So that this open space isn't just, an isolated front porch for this particular development, but makes sense for the city as a whole.
Right. Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Kyung. Those are, I'm sure the public process will take note of the questions and concerns that have been raised, and I'm sure there'll be others as well. But thank you very much. This is certified.
Okay, let's move on to items 2 and 3. They are proposed office space uses located in the same building at 11835 Queens Boulevard. These are Queens non-York pre-hearing items. One is a notice of intent to acquire office space for the Board of Elections, and the other is a notice of intent to acquire office space for DCAS. The presenter on this item is Fred Lee of the Queens office. These are items number 2 and 3, page 84 and 92.
Good afternoon, Chairman Weisbrod and Commissioners. These two applications are for the lease acquisition of office space within the same building, 118-35 Queens Boulevard in Community District 6. The first will relocate and replace existing Board of Election offices that will occupy 24,000 square feet in parts of the 10th, 11th, and ground floors. The second, DCAS proposes to acquire 21,000 square feet on the entire 5th floor. The space is needed by the Bureau of Examinations for computer-based testing. The building of these applications is located in the corner of Queens Boulevard and Union Turnpike. Built in 1983. It is zoned C4-2. Subway station access to the E and F trains is from Queens Boulevard, and city's bus service is provided by bus stops at this location. The surrounding buildings on Queens Boulevard are 1- and 2-story retail and office buildings or medium-density apartment buildings. A large office tower located diagonally across from the site, and Queensborough Hall is located to the southeast. Grand Central Parkway is to the north, as well as Flushing Meadows Corona Park, also immediately to the north. Are there any questions?
Questions? Thank you. A hearing on Wednesday.
Let's now move to item number 4.
Soon will be contentious.
Item number 4, page 99, is the Staten Island pre-hearing application with respect to a proposed city map amendment facilitating residential development to protect Blue Belt property from future roadway development. Back from Community Board and Borough President review. This is the Alborn Avenue proposal, page 99, and our presenter is Philip Montgomery.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Chairman Weisbrod. Returning for pre-hearing reviews an application by Frank Sarcona, a private applicant, and the Department of Environmental Protection seeking an amendment to the city map. The proposed action seeks the elimination of a portion of Alborn Avenue in the Princess Bay area of Staten Island Community District 3. The proposed demapping would facilitate the development of a new 3-story 2-family residence on the unimproved portion of Alborn Avenue owned by the applicant, and will also protect Blue Belt property from future roadway development. The subject portion of Alborn Avenue here is approximately 340 feet in length, mapped to a width of 80 feet, and is mostly unimproved. The subject portion is comprised of multiple tax lots. Tax lot 58 here, which is owned by DEP, tax lot 158, which is owned by the applicant, and small portions of lots 75, 84, 88, and 93, which are under private ownership. The DEP-owned lot 58 contains wetlands and has been designated by DEP as a Blue Belt area for stormwater management. The applicant-owned lot 158 lies entirely within the mapped street and is comprised of the largely unimproved portion of Alborn Avenue here, as well as this portion of Alborn Avenue that is open and in use to two-way traffic. This portion of Alborn Avenue was granted Corporation Council opinion of dedication as a street in June of 1999. DEP maintains an existing 12-inch diameter sanitary sewer line on lot 158, and as part of the demapping, DEP will require an access easement for maintenance of this sewer line. The easement varies between 25 and 30 feet in width, and it's the area outlined in red here. Located within this easement area is the primary access way for lot 88. This access way is a paved drive ranging from 15 feet to 35 feet in width. This paved driveway has served as the property's main vehicular access way for many years without any formal rights-of-way or easements. The access easement granted to DEP will also grant rights of ingress and egress to the owner of Lot 88. The applicant proposes to construct a 14-foot wide asphalt driveway within this easement area that would serve both Lot 88 and the new residential development. By a vote of 31 in favor, 0 opposed, and 0 abstentions, Community Board 3 voted to approve the application with conditions. They include that the applicant increase the width of the 14-foot wide asphalt driveway to 17 feet, and that 30 by 30 FDNY frontage space on Lot 88 be relocated to the paved area of Lot 88. The applicant has agreed to increase the width of the proposed 14-foot wide asphalt driveway to 17 feet, and the 30 by 30 frontage space can be relocated. The Borough President's Office approved the application without conditions.
Questions? Mr. Knuckles.
The emphasis for this is the zoning and the construction of a two-family house, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there a plan view or something that you recall showing us in?
So this line here would be, this line here, see the new residence in this area here, and the new access way over right here.
Okay, and a 14-foot driveway is...
Then to become 17.
On the side of the house.
Right inside this
Become 17 feet.
Yes.
Ms. Besser.
Thank you, Chair. Would you kindly review the community board's concerns and the applicant's response to those concerns? And also, I just have a quick question regarding who would be responsible for the maintenance of the access easement?
I do not know who would be responsible for the access easement. The applicant's rep will be here on Wednesday, and he can answer that question.
Thank you.
The community board, they recommended the increase in width of the driveway. The 30 by 30 frontage space recommendation, prior to certification, we had concerns, the applicant had to prepare a site plan for the FDNY, so they had concerns about the area. And on that plan, they had to show that there was available frontage space. And they happened to show that 30 by 30 space here, and the community board just asked them to do here. It's not an easement or it's not a turnaround. It's just something shown on the site plan showing there is available space. So.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Thank you.
The next item is item number 5, page 116. Our presenter is Richard Jacobs from the Brooklyn office. It's a proposed modification to a previously approved restrictive declaration and a chairman's certification to facilitate expansion to an existing restaurant on Flatlands Avenue in Commerce, Brooklyn. This is item number 5, page 116, the Ihop restaurant expansion.
Good afternoon, Chairman Weisbrod, Commissioners. This is a private application for a modification to restrictive declaration to facilitate the enlargement of an existing restaurant located at 11,000 Flatlands Avenue in an R5C21 district, an R3 section of Brooklyn, Community District 18. The application seeks a modification of restrictive declaration D47, originally approved by the City Planning Commission in 1979, together with a rezoning application from R5 to R5C22 to facilitate a shopping center with a cap on the maximum square footage of a Pathmark supermarket as anchor, satellite retail, and parking. The modification would increase the existing cap on the satellite retail from 16,400 square feet to 18,600 square feet, a 2,200 square foot increase. The development site is generally bounded by Flatlands Avenue on the north, Louisiana Avenue to the east, and Dahlia Avenue to the south, and Fresh Creek Natural Preserve to the west. Directly across, you can see better on the area, directly across the site is the Brooklyn ball fields. Adjacent to that in the R5 district is the, I'm sorry, did I turn that on? You did. How do we turn that on? Still on.
I love that. Just hold the mic. Keep on, Richard.
Directly adjacent is the Nightshare Brooklyn houses, also in the R5. There's an M1 district northeast, which has storage and warehouse spaces. Directly east is the Christian Cultural Center, a nonprofit religious institution. And to the south is Starrett City Complex, as well as directly south are three-story row house buildings with garden apartments. Again, to the west is the 77-acre Fresh Creek Nature Preserve, park owned by the City of New York, which extends into Jamaica Bay. Flatlands Avenue is has 2 lanes in each direction. It's a wide street, 100 feet wide. Louisiana Avenue, it also has traffic in each direction, but because it's 70 feet wide, it's considered to be a narrow street. In terms of prior related actions, the original application was withdrawn in 1979 and replaced with the second application, or the A application, approved by the Commission on October 19, 1979, and included the mapping of a C22 zoning district within the R5, this area right here. Also, again, the restrictive deck was also, together with that application, included the cap on the supermarket at 50,939 square feet, retail at 12,500 square feet, and a cap on the parking at 409 spaces. In June of 1982, the Planning Commission approved a second modification to restricted deck, a minor modification allowing for reciprocal parking for the separate zoning lot of retail, 45 spaces to be allowed to be parked in the same parking lot as the other development. And the last modification was in November of 2002. The Planning Commission permitted the addition of 3,900 square feet of permitted satellite stores. That modification facilitated the construction of the standalone restaurant, at the time along John Silver's, which is the subject of the modification today. The entire shopping center site is approximately 264,369 square feet. Again, it's in an R5 district. However, it's split between two overlays, the C21 and the C22 that was mapped in 79. The difference is the parking requirement. It's a much higher parking requirement, one space per 150 square feet in the C21 versus one per every 300 square feet of retail in the C22. In 1981, the Pathmark Supermarket was constructed, as well as the retail. Later, in 2004, after the commission modification, the Long John Silver drive-through fast food restaurant was constructed. The proposed development 2,210 feet. Primarily at the southern end, 1,998 feet would be enlarged, as well as a 212-foot vestibule. The enlargement includes an increased dining area, as well as dry storage, beverage area, an employee changing area and rest area, as well as, again, the vestibule at the northern end. The proposed enlargement would add 15 parking spaces, resulting in a total of 388 spaces. These 15 additional spaces will be provided by restriping the existing rows of spaces and modifying existing curbs. 388 parking spaces will be within the maximum of 409 spaces that were permitted under the terms of the original restrictive deck. In addition, the applicant is proposing some new planters, some decorative pavement, some bicycle racks, and we had asked for a widened sidewalk around the perimeter of the restaurant to provide for additional safety for pedestrians as they exit their cars. So, again, the current restricted deck must be modified to permit up to 18,600 square feet for satellite commercial uses. The current deck limits those satellite retail uses to 16,400 square feet. In your package is the applicant's statement. And for your information, there's a related application for a Chairman Waterfront certification, certifying the exemption of waterfront public access and compliance with visual corridor requirements. If you have to answer any questions.
And this is for a referral to the community for 45 days?
That's right.
Questions? I think this will be a highly controversial matter in the committee. You never know. Any questions? Thank you, Richard. Okay.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, so Commissioners, this Wednesday, the following actions are being proposed for your favorable consideration, including an authorization regarding 3020 Palisades Avenue to facilitate a pool within the Special Natural Area District in the Bronx. We have 260 West 153rd Street. It's a UDOT disposition to facilitate a mixed-use development, including affordable housing and community facility space at 260 West 153rd Street. We have city map and zoning map amendments to facilitate the expansion of parkland, the establishment of parkland, and expansion to an existing school. It's the Grand Central Parkway rezoning proposal. We have 70 Beebe Street. Commission authorization and certification to facilitate an enlargement to a single-family house within the Special Natural Area District in Staten Island. We have 111 Cliffwood Avenue, proposed authorization to facilitate a single-family home within the Special Natural Area District. Edinburgh Road, which involves authorization and subdivision certification to facilitate 4 single-family homes in the Special Natural Area District, Staten Island. We also have a Staten Island subdivision certification to facilitate 1 two-family homes in the Special South Richmond District along Parkwood Avenue. We have a proposed subdivision certification from 1 to 2 zoning lots within the Special South Richmond Development District for Foster Road and Parkwood Avenue. We have a proposed subdivision certification to facilitate the construction of 2 two-family homes in the Special South Richmond Development at 72 and 76 Hanover Avenue in Staten Island. And we have a proposed expansion to the existing Korean Evangelical Church, which involves an authorization to facilitate the enlargement to the church on Arden Avenue in the Special South Richmond Development District. Tentatively scheduled for May 7th, we have the Clinton Cura Site 7 proposal, which is a series of land use actions to facilitate a mixed-use development, including affordable housing, commercial use, and open space for property within the Special Clinton District. And the next item on the agenda is the West...
I have a question about...
Sure.
That one, is now the time to ask it, or...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I do have a question about the Site 7 rural plan. I think a number of issues were raised by the community board and the elected officials, including the borough president, most of which have been addressed by the applicant. I assume those commitments by the applicant will be reflected in our report, but I think there was one outstanding issue, and that had to do with the distribution of the affordable units in the, Taconic portion of the building, the larger tower. And the request was, I think the application has those units distributed through less than all of the floors, and the request from some local elected officials was that they should be distributed throughout the building. And I wonder if we have any response from the applicant on that point. It would be great if we could get a commitment on that and have it reflected in our report.
Okay. We'll get back to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
The West 117th Street rezoning is a proposed zoning map amendment from R7A to R8A to facilitate mixed-use development. And Calvin is here to walk us through a response from the applicant, particularly with respect to the cultural use that was proposed.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So in your package, the applicant did provide a response letter pertaining to the community facility uses. And basically, in response to the concerns that were raised by the Commission, the applicant is proposing to create a 501c3 organization that will help manage this community facility use, and then also be in a position that if any operational issues were to arise, that they'll be in a position to kind of take over, given the concerns that is difficult, creating and managing and maintaining this type of facility. They also reiterated in their letter that they are committed to providing the affordable housing to the West 117th Street site.
Any questions about that? You and I both shared that concern, and I'm not sure that there's much more we can get, actually.
Yeah, it's a challenging situation, particularly given that it's a completely private site.
Right.
Competing public interests here. I have to say, this letter goes partway there, but it's words on a page and not much of a binding commitment. And while I appreciate the chair's concern about wanting Artemis and its muscle to stay involved with the not-for-profit, you have to balance that also with seeking assurances that this truly will be a not-for-profit space and not, taken over by. We want Artemis to be wearing their good community-minded hat and not their
Their for-profit hat, right.
Yeah, and so I think it's going to take some work to shape this not-for-profit so that the proper balance is set. And so I don't know if we have any more room to get commitments for the organization of the thing, who will be on the board, that sort of thing, so we could get a little bit more assurance.
Let's see what we can do. As you say, it's a very careful balance here. You don't want the developer to dominate this to be for private purposes, and at the same time, we do want them at the table, and they are the responsible party. So how we balance it.
We've had a number of occasions on which we've set up a community task force to advise about the formation of open space, or we have some experience in creating a balance in representation in these organizations, and I think it would be great if we could get a little bit more refinement of that so that we have some protection that the not-for-profit side of it won't.
Let's explore it.
I would just only add, I think the ideal situation would be if there were a non-profit, not-for-profit cultural organization to which a lease could be directly configured. But in the absence of that, and there's still, that's the possibility
That's
one
right.
can come forward, and I can certainly, along with my colleagues, investigate that. But falling short of that, I'm not sure what else they can do.
Any other comments? Okay. Thanks, Colin.
So the next item is 492 St. Nicholas Avenue. And
Welcome back.
It's been a long time.
And Calvin's going to walk us through the responses on this that we received as well.
So in the commissioner's package, there was also a letter from the applicant and HPD responding to two of the issues that were raised during the public hearing regarding the appraisal fees and the design, which was a comment that was related to the borough president's recommendation. So we'll start with the design. This is what was submitted with the application. This is just, some pictures of the immediately adjacent areas. There was issues related to West 113th Street, but also St. Nicholas Avenue, which is down this way. This is the park. That's West 135th Street. So given the contextual concerns that were raised with the borough president's comments, the applicant submitted to revise. This is looking along West 100 and, St. Nicholas Avenue. The applicant is going with the red brick to kind of match the contextual design along St. Nicholas Avenue and the stone penetrations. And this is looking along West 135th Street, wrap around in that same sort of design along West 135th Street, which sort of ties in with what's going on along along West 135th Street. So that's the design revisions, and as stated in the letter from FLOT and HPD, that they are continue to work with the community board and the applicant to ensure that they reach, a contextual design that everyone is comfortable with. So this is still, they're in the process of and committed to working with one another, HPD and applicant, to make sure that they satisfy the borough president's concerns. Okay, and then additionally, they addressed the issue regarding the appraisal, and HPD reiterated in their letter that this deal was structured before they were involved, before they realized that a ULUP action would be needed in order to facilitate the sale, and just given the concerns regarding appraisal, they state in their letter that they share the same goals as the commission in terms of maximizing the purchase price to support Greater Harlem's housing development corporations in preserving and maintaining their affordable housing, and that they will continue to work with the organization to reach that goal. So they will do an appraisal as part of the disposition that's required. So they're going to continue to work with the organization and just see what the new appraisal price is.
Surprising.
Any questions? Thanks, Dal. Now, really, thank you.
Okay. Calvin also has the West 106th Street rezoning.
Oh, quite
But I'll sit down.
So that particular proposal, the West 106th Street rezoning, involved a zoning map amendment from an R72 to an R8A, and R8B districts to facilitate a mixed-use development.
Let me just say about both of these that questions have been asked by many commissioners about affordable housing, and staff is looking at a text amendment that would be able to address that issue. No, we're not quite there yet, but we're looking at it in both.
For Empire Boulevard as well.
Oh, I'm sorry? For 106th Street and for Empire Boulevard.
Right.
So we have time on that, on those two applications. So we will bring those back for further commission discussion. And then last but not least, we have the two Board of Election, the two office space applications, one for the Board of Elections and DCAS office space that Fred presented earlier, and those are scheduled for a May 7th vote.
That's going to require a lot more investigation, but
Indeed.
soon we'll get there. Right.
So I think that's all we have on our agenda today, Mr.
Any other questions? I hope everyone had a good holiday. I should have said that at the outset, but I hope everyone had a good holiday, and now the holiday season is over. So see you on Wednesday. Adjourn.